Hello everyone, my name is Javed. We all know how much education has suffered in Kashmir over the past 2 years. So today we are going to talk with Samar about how students can apply to grad school in UK. Welcome Samar. Thank you for being with us here.
Thank you, Javed. Thank you so
So
much.
Samar, why don't you give us a brief intro about yourself?
So I hail from Kashmir. I have done my schooling there. Then I moved to Jammu for my engineering and afterwards for work to different parts of India. And I have an engineering background, after which I worked for a few years into IT consulting and another industry. And then I moved to France for my MBA, which was an international program. And in 2018, I worked with Google for 1.5 years. And now I have recently joined a new company, which is into cybersecurity.
So why did you make switch from engineering to MBA into management? What do you think were the reasons?
That was basically always a dream. Probably when I was 12 years old, I always heard about the combination.
Yeah.
That time I was only fascinated with the only concept our society had, that, this is one of the elitist combination you can ever have. But eventually, I actually realized that I had more inclination towards the management side of the business, not just technical. But what I realized was that engineering and MBA, why was it a good combination, was when we enter into the management side of the business, it's very important to have an overview of the technical aspect as well. It really gives you an edge as a management leader to understand the language of both the sides, client and internal teams. So when I was into engineering, I started preparing for my management aptitude tests and all. But I was pretty much inclined since the beginning of my schooling.
So what are the advantages of having an MBA from international universities? Because people can have MBA from India too. So how does education differ?
See, for me, MBA was never an academic program. It's more than that, basically. In MBA, we do not really learn anything from the scratch. We brush up our skills. So when I say that, I have done an MBA from Europe or any other place, it depends what are my future plans. It depends what are my future goals. So where do I want to set up my, where do I want to settle? Where do I want to live for long? If I'm doing an MBA from India or any other South Asian university, that would be definitely renowned within that specific country. But if I'm doing it from the Europe, it's absolutely different for the European countries, right? So I chose European university for the sake of planning something here for my future.
So what are some essential things that a student should consider before he starts or she starts selecting universities? What are some things that they should note? Is it the faculty? Is it the rank?
I actually always followed a set of stages for myself. I created a strategy for myself when I was into engineering. So my plan was basically to do a thorough research on what exactly do I want to do after my engineering. Do I want to work for a few years and then apply for MBA, or I directly want to go for an MBA? Because there is a huge difference between the two programs. When I was doing my MBA, I had people with me in my batch with more than 15, 18 years of experience. So that tells a lot about the whole batch and the quality of education we were actually exchanging with each other. MBA is more about interacting and networking with these different people coming from different backgrounds, not about professors precisely. So when I did my research on it, I realized that I need to work for a few years to get into a good one of the top universities or something like that. That's how I decided that after the engineering, I'll apply for the job, I'll get into a technical role, or probably something into corporate, and then create my resume, build my resume, and make good connections, network for a few years, and then I'll apply for GMAT. But that was just the beginning of it, to be honest. I think the whole strategy should basically be into different stages. One should be, if a candidate is applying for any university, it can be of any country, first we need to understand which specialization are we really interested in. What that does is it helps us to shortlist the universities which we have to focus on. Once we have shortlisted those universities, we need to understand which, because everyone has got their own limitations and constraints. We might not be able to afford to go to a specific country or something. But once we have this list of universities, we will be able to shortlist which countries do we want to focus on. And that'll give us another shortlisted, set of universities. And this will help us to actually focus on a very small bunch of universities, and then we focus on what are the prerequisites, what are the finances involved, can I afford this particular university? If I cannot afford, are there any scholarship options in it? If there are scholarship options in it, are they external or internal for that university? For that specific country, are there any special, you know, I would say special benefits or brownie points added for your passport, which you're holding right now? So these things are very important to understand in the third stage, because this will help us to actually focus, to actually filter out the most important universities for us, because finances are involved in it.
How many
I
universities?
remember.
Yeah. Sorry. Just keep on going. Sorry.
So when I applied for the universities, I definitely made sure that I'm already doing my homework on, am I able to afford these universities? What are the prerequisites? Am I ready for it or not? Yes, please go ahead.
How many universities did you end up applying for? Or if I'm a student, how many universities should I shortlist?
So initially, I actually had taken some help for my content, creation. Not creation exactly. I was made to write it myself, but then some experts helped me to brush it up. But after I was ready with it, I preferred applying for 4 to 5 universities in the beginning.
And all of them were in France, or?
No. So my first stage of application was basically for the UK. And I actually picked those universities which were in my range, which were in top 50 or top 60 of the world. And I applied for these 5 universities, and I got offers from all 5 of them. But there comes another stage, basically, because when we apply for universities, we need to understand the fee structure, the living expenses of that country. If we are getting an offer, are we able to, have a scholarship there or not, or apply for external scholarships or not? I had scholarship from one of the universities in the UK, but I decided to actually apply for French university as well, considering the living expenses here. The living expenses are way better than the UK. And definitely the job market is really good. Back in that year, the job market was not that good in the UK. That was one of the factors. The other factor was basically the finances and the ranking. The business school where I did my MBA was better than those 5 universities as well. So that's how I went ahead with it. And I received a scholarship from this university as well. So everything was actually falling in place for all, for this decision of mine. And other than that, Indian government had actually signed a recent MOU with the French government, wherein the students coming from India or any Indian passport holder can stay in France for at least 2 years after they finish their studies. So, which was a big deal.
That's very important.
Usually, yes, because for rest of the international students, they had just 1 year. So that makes a very big deal here, because there is a specific visa which we get here, which is a stay visa, which is called APS, and which is given to the student if the person has done the studies here and stuff. So there were a lot of benefits involved in, picking the French university. And if I talk about Europe as a whole, uh, well, Audencia is my school was pretty much recognized in a lot of different European countries, and they knew about it. And I knew that if they know about it, I'm going to have a better opportunities, coming
Get a
ahead.
job.
Yeah.
So how long did the whole process take you? You researched universities, scholarships. How long did it take you?
So if I talk about whether I want to do the GMAT or work from the scratch on it, I did a lot of research. When I moved into the corporate sector after my engineering, I decided to write GMAT, prepare for it. So I was doing it really gradually. But if I look at it from an optimized view, if we want to get it done within few weeks or probably within few months, I think not more than 2 to 3 months. You just need the right track, you just need the right resources, and you just need to know that everything is available on the internet. For all these universities, I didn't go through any consultant. I applied for 5 universities in the UK. It was all sorted by myself. I applied for this French university. It was again done by myself. So I didn't need any external help for it. The applications are super simple. All we have to do is consult an expert for the content brushing up. That's very important, because when we write the statement of purpose, or I'm going to talk about that in in the next few minutes. So these things are very important, because these are going to be the first impression for you, as an individual, and it needs to be that right, that spot on thing wherein it's sending out the right message, that why should this particular university hire you. There are hundreds of European universities, but if I would recommend that if we are really focusing on studying abroad, we should pick something which is worth it. Not like any random university. That's very important, because we are investing so much money into it, and
Also, time.
we are
Investing
moving.
2 years of your life.
We are investing our time. We are staying away from our families. We get to just visit our families once a year. So there are a lot of different emotional, financial, and personal investments we are making into it. And I think it's very important to, if we are investing this much, we'd better go for the best in it. I wouldn't say that. I mean, my target used to be in the top 10, but for some reasons I couldn't get it. But even then, I decided that I don't want to settle for for something even lowest than this what I got. So when I got the scholarship and all, I realized that no, my profile is getting valued. It's there. They consider it. That's how I actually went ahead with it.
And about the exams, you gave GMAT. Did you have to give any other exam?
So every country has got some specific rules for the English language or the aptitude for management. But GMAT specifically is for all the foreign universities which we have. And yes, I wrote GMAT. I also wrote IELTS that's just for formality. The band usually is 7 and above or 6.5 and above, because it was an international program. So they wanted me to prove that I speak
Speak the
English, even
language.
though
Yeah.
we have been speaking English
Yeah.
since childhood. Yeah. But yeah, GMAT is very important. All the good universities would always want a student to have it. That's just for management, and I took 2 to 3 months to prepare for it. And it's a bit different from CAT, I would say. The more emphasis is on the verbal side, and I came from an engineering background, so the quantitative side was not that difficult for me. But when it comes to the verbal of such foreign aptitude tests, the game changes a bit. We have to focus on the rules and everything. But I think if we actually go for the right books, very precise, we don't have to, spread across, and we don't have to study everything like the deep best concepts. But if we actually go by the rule book, it's pretty easy to crack actually.
which books did you use to study for GMAT, and how long did you study for GMAT?
So it was GMAT was basically it's a matter of 3 months. Even the research says that more than 3 months you should not be spending much time on it. But for GMAT, when I registered for GMAT, they usually send you a book of their own, entity. You can read that. That's one of them. Then for each section, I actually picked up a different book. I remember for sentence correction, I refer to Manhattan sentence correction.
Classic
So there
book.
are a lot of, yeah, it is. But pretty much available in PDF online as well. I'm not sure if that's a fair way to do it, but there are such ways to do it. And there are also lots of forums online for GMAT students and who want to pursue MBA, wherein they discuss the questions every day and all the questions are new every day. So there are lots of such clubs. I always preferred going on Quora, Reddit, the GMAT club itself, lots of clubs on Facebook, and they would have these questions and I would just collect all of them and solve them in the evening. So something like that, because I was working as well. So it was very difficult for me to balance both the things. So I used to have weekend classes at Kaplan at Pune, and yeah, these questions to solve usually.
So you have studied in India, you have studied in France. What do you think are the biggest differences in the way they teach, and what were some specific challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
I would like to go one by one for that. That's because that's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
If I talk about the differences, it's two different worlds. We are talking about a third world country and a first world country. Absolutely different. If I talk about on a societal level, it's completely different. People would actually consider the opinion. They don't want to impose the concepts on you. They want you to explore this particular thing. So if my professor was giving me a concept that let's say entrepreneurial management or something like that, the professor would actually give me that space to think about an idea for the city where I was doing my MBA. That what do you think would be the best way of preserving the resources and also having a business idea for it. That's one, wherein the opinion is really considered. And I think the European studies do not make you just follow the norms and go after the scores. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, absolutely. It was a wonderful experience exchanging with 13 different nationalities in my batch. Although there was just 30 people, but then we were 13 different nationalities coming from, I would say, 30 different backgrounds. Someone was coming from chartered accountancy, someone was coming from teaching, someone was coming from a carpenter background, which is commendable.
Interesting, yeah.
So we had so much to learn in it. And in India, it doesn't work like that. There is a specific curriculum, there is a specific set of rules wherein, you have to go through this. This is the date of exam. This is how it works. But in Europe, it's different. We don't get to just learn from the professors. We get to learn from the peers around us. And we didn't have any book, by the way.
Oh, wow.
We never had. I never held a book in my hand during my MBA. It was a wonderful experience for me.
And were there any challenges that you faced?
A lot of them, actually.
And non-academic, if you like to talk. Yeah.
Yes, I think academically, the biggest challenge was basically I had to really challenge my interpersonal skills a lot, because coming from different cultures, we have different ways of expressing. I have now, today, I can say that I have friends from China, Japan, Mexico, and they all are different when it comes to expressing or probably conveying an expression. So it's different. I got to learn a lot about that, and also I learned to take a back seat for a moment, understand the situation, and then move ahead and contribute in terms of an opinion. So I think that was probably one of the challenges. Second challenge, I would say that MBA usually in Europe is a very intense program. It's a 1-year program wherein the modules are short, the assignments are very quick, but you get to learn a lot, but it's always happening together. You don't have a spare time in between. So that's one of the challenges, wherein people sometimes get a shock that, okay, this is how it's happening. Because in India, MBAs usually are for 2 months, 2 years probably. So that gives them a lot of time to have classes, work on the assignments. It doesn't work like that here. It's super intense, and sometimes people prefer to move to different countries for the exchange programs. That gets even more intense, depending on the module which they're picking. That's the academic challenge, probably. For personal challenges, I would say, I mean, initially the list was unending. As a student from France, the biggest challenge was the language. Um, Even for the government office, I have to get my visa approved or anything of that sort. I needed French. I remember a lady once telling me in French that you better learn French and then come back to me. So I couldn't answer her back that I'm new to the country, but there have been lots of such challenges. And I think a person who's ready to adapt to a new culture, a new world altogether, it won't be a big deal for a person to survive. Um, but people who just don't want to come out of their bubble, it definitely gets difficult for them. I have met hundreds of people from different countries in the last 4 years, and some were just not ready to adapt to the culture, but some were really open and really looking forward to it. And people who were looking forward to it they have grown immensely. They are super happy. They have a big culture, social culture circle here, and it's going wonderful. That's one of the challenges. And second challenge, probably, I think, coming from Kashmir, if anyone is coming directly from Kashmir, I would say, like, I have still moved and I have traveled abroad for my work as well. It was a bit different. But someone who is directly coming from Kashmir would be a big cultural shock for the person.
So what should they do to, because it is very hard, because you live in Kashmir and then all of a sudden you're in another country, different people, different language, different culture. So like, should they do something that will help them get into the culture at a quick
I
speed?
think I would recommend just to be open about things. I don't say that we have to compromise over our ethics. When I moved to France, I never missed a fast. I never missed fasting or going to the mosque. In fact, in France, I got the opportunity to actually go to the mosques. So nobody's challenging a person's ethics there. But the best part is you get the space to actually save your ethics, preserve them as well, but on the other side also learn something new about the world. So if a person is open about, I would say, learning new about a new corner of the world, it won't be a big challenge, I would say. um, a, a young person definitely needs to open up to the culture and also interact with people of this place, and then the whole game becomes very easy. You just have to show that zeal, that interest, that yes, I am interested in your culture, and I respect the country, and definitely I want to learn more about it. And I think that made my life easier here, wherein I was new to different nationalities. I was very curious about new cultures, and today I can say that I'm sure it's with you as well, that we have like people, friends from multiple countries, and it's
All over the
amazing.
world, yeah.
It's a
You
wonderful
learn so much,
experience.
yeah.
So much, yes. Learned from Europeans, learned from Americans, learned from South Asians, and I think that really makes us more humble towards humanity, and one gets to learn a lot in that.
So that is very important to learn from other people. Yeah. Tell me more about your SOP. How did you write it? Like, what things did you put in the SOP? Because I was
Sure.
talking to a lot of students. They were confused. They're like, should we put our achievements? Should we put our failures? What should a person write in his SOP that would make the admissions committee take him very seriously?
So, for an SOP, Javed, basically, I started with a content expert. She's an amazing lady. I'm still in touch with her actually. Um, she made me write my own SOP first, so that the essence of Samar is right there. the originality of the content. Then she helped me to brush it up. So SOP has a specific structure for management, applications and all. Um, you have to talk about where you come from, what have you done. You also talk about what were you working for, or what exactly have you done, and why are you above the league? Why are you the person which the university should pick? And also, in an SOP, a candidate must always highlight what that person wants to do for the society, for the community. That's very
Long-term
important.
goals.
A person needs to contribute to the community. We cannot just be selfish humans when we are talking just about our achievements, our plans, our dreams, and our studies and stuff. We need to also build that empathy towards the community wherein we are able to contribute. And I think I already had such plans in my mind before, wherein I had done my research. I wanted to do something for a specific community and I wanted to contribute. So that really helped me build my SOP and create a story in that. And I think creating a story is very important in an SOP, wherein when a reader is going through it, he or she is able to visualize a person. There needs to be that reflection of you. And yeah, there are a lot of websites wherein the SOP structure is actually given. I agree that in terms of the content, refining, people would definitely need an expert. I know, an institute in India, the Chopras. They usually help for UK applications free of cost. I don't know why. Maybe probably they charge the
Commission,
university.
yeah.
Yeah, probably. So there are a lot of such experts. The lady with whom I worked, she has recently started her own venture, and it's really affordable.
What's the
She
name of
is
her venture?
really
The idea?
um,
Or you have to look it up.
it's Pegasus
Oh,
Consulting.
Pegasus Consulting. Okay.
She's based in Delhi, and especially with her content, I really like it. She has helped me to highlight and actually probably I would say she's helped me to brush up my existing skills so well that I myself was pretty confident about reading the SOP. Okay, this is what I do, and I have a strong profile. So she gave me that confidence in it. And yeah, that's SOP. The second part of the content thing is the recommendation letters. Usually people who want to recommend you would prefer writing for you, but as I was working in the corporate sector, people do not have time to
They
actually
just
spend
ask
time
you to
on
write
that.
something and
So
they'll upload it.
yes, or probably I give them the points wherein I've worked with them. I want to highlight this particular leadership skill. I want to talk about negotiation skill or any management skill. And then, we created the content around it, send it to the person who would recommend, and the person would say, yes, I'm happy with it and I'm going to sign it. So there are a lot of, different approaches for different
Who should write the
configurations.
recommendation letter? If there's a student, who should he ask? Should he ask his professor, or if he's working, his manager? What would be the ideal
So
combination?
the whole purpose of recommendation letter is basically to highlight or to reflect that a student has got leadership skills, that the student is ready to adapt to changes, is flexible. um, so it all depends on what sort of program you're focusing on. But if I talk about the European universities, they would definitely look for something into leadership, whether the person is really a good leader. Now, being a leader doesn't just mean that the person makes people follow, but also take a backseat sometimes. So we need to reflect all those things into the application, wherein we are trying to say that the person has been a great team member, he has followed the instructions, and in the times when the person was required to exhibit some leadership skills, the person was ready to do that as well. So we need to really let the university people know that the person is definitely above the league, going to be a great leader, and would contribute to the community or to the system.
And about CV, like what should a student write in his CV if he has no work experience? Because a lot of Kashmiri students, unfortunately, due to degree 2 साल की होती है, it gets completed in 2.5 years.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what should they write in their CVs? Should they work for a few years before applying for a master's, or should they directly apply after their studies?
So that's a wonderful question. I wanted to highlight that, Javed. Before answering that, I missed answering one part of your previous question, was that who should write these recommendation letters, basically. If a person is not working or is, a fresher, definitely should have someone from the teaching team, like professor, probably the HOD, or if the person, definitely, I mean, in professional graduations, undergrads, we usually have those projects going on wherein we have worked with different team members, worked with a professor over a project or something. So these people are the best players who can help with the recommendation letters, because they will be able to justify the skills which we are trying to highlight. Coming to the CV part, it has to be basic. We don't have to, it's not going to be a rocket science for a fresher, definitely. For a fresher, the biggest thing is, if a person has been dedicated or has dreamt of pursuing any management masters, definitely a person needs to do some homework, maybe go for a certification before apply for some curricular activities, or do something like that, just to make the CV look, stand above the league. That's very important. You have to make your profile look super niche, so that the university says that no, there can't be anyone else like this person. So that's very important. But for a CV, there is one more thing wherein people tend to so the freshers should not be applying for universities which ask for experience, for sure, because the fresh students do not have any experience of real-time market, and it's not possible for these universities to select these students. So for such students, it's not that they cannot go ahead for the masters. It's not the case. I can take an example of my school, wherein I was doing an MBA, but there was another master's program which was called International Management Studies based. It was mainly on Masters in Business Administration, or Masters in International Business, so something like that. So this course was basically for the students who had just passed out of the college and they wanted to have something into management. So there is a scope of that as well. Even they had scholarship options. In France, there are a couple of external scholarships which usually students apply for before getting the admission or before moving to France. That's one. Sorry, you have a question?
Yeah, we had a question. It's like, could you talk about the scholarship and its various struggles, and can students work part-time while they study?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So
yeah,
that is
sure.
a benefit. Yes, they can work part-time while studying.
Absolutely. As a student in France, there is a permission of around 20 hours per week. So there is a possibility, for sure.
Same in US too. You get around 18, I think 40 hours, but yeah, you get something.
Oh, that's a lot. You guys can earn a lot then.
Yeah, that's how I did go to school. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I have a couple of friends who have worked part-time, wherein they were working at Domino's, doing their masters in a technical university. That's pretty much possible. And I would say that that's actually a very nice way of surviving in a different country, because you get to exchange a lot with different people. Definitely a good point there. The second part was the scholarships. Scholarships are hard because they're limited, and we have to apply right in the beginning. So it's like first come, first serve for scholarships. So scholarships are going to be of two types. One is external, the other is internal. If I'm applying for a business school or any university for that matter, when they select me or they send me an offer, they're definitely going to send me another website link where, these are the scholarships which we already have in case you want to have a support and stuff like that. We can apply for that. In management, precisely, in MBAs, we do not usually get full-time 100% scholarships. Not really possible. There are very few selective universities for that. Talking about external scholarships, as I said in the beginning, that the stages which we have to go through for picking up a university and applying for it definitely requires an attention over this stage as well, wherein we're talking about the finances. We are we are shortlisting the universities based on what sort of scholarships are provided in that country and in that university. That'll help us to chalk out the plan for our financial, limitations, or probably what our scope is. In France, there are a lot of external scholarships, especially for people who are holding a passport from India. Um, there is Erasmus, there is Eiffel scholarship. In Erasmus, I know that it is not just confined for management. It is a general scholarship which is given to people. It's not just for people who are holding an Indian passport. And this scholarship would actually cover the living expenses, the tuition expenses, tuition fee, and also to and fro travel ticket as well. So there are a lot of such benefits.
So the full ride.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing. People get to exchange with, with students from different universities. I know a lot of people who came on this particular scholarship and they got to travel to at least 5 different countries in their masters. That was incredible. They got to learn a lot. One of them was actually in the robotics.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Also, there are a lot of scholarships in India for Indian students. I think before you apply, you should always look into that. There's one that I know is Tata Scholarship. There is Indra Scholarship. Yeah. So students should always look scholarships from India. And
absolutely.
Yeah, when they see somebody from Kashmir, a lot of times people think that I'm from Kashmir or any other part, they probably will not give me. But trust me, they would prefer you because they want students, so they would prefer students like you. You should definitely apply these scholarships.
Right.
So now, since, for example, if I am a student that is about to graduate, what are the 3 critical things that I should take into consideration before I apply? 3 very, very important things.
I think before applying, the universities which a person has shortlisted, you must always look into the prerequisites for that university. Never go 11th hour for it. 11th hour applications are sometimes, really a mess. And I would recommend to do some research on those specific universities, because sometimes the university is asking for a 500 score of GMAT or 700 or 600, anything. A person can actually prepare for such things. So we must always have a buffer time for that. Second would be, the finances. We must figure out some financial, the liberty which we have in terms of investing.
How much can we invest?
Yeah, how much can we invest? What are our limitations? That's very important. Third would be, try to understand before even applying, are you ready to invest the next few years into it once you finish your studies? If you're just coming to Europe for a master's and then you want to go back to India, do not expect an Indian company or any South Asian company to actually understand that yes, your university is really worth it. For them, any European university is going to be a European university. So that's very important. I always recommend all my students in the counseling that whenever you're applying for a European master's or anything, any program, just make sure to actually ask yourself, are you ready to invest your time after this here, or you just want to come here for the resume's sake that, okay, I have an European certification or a program? That doesn't really make sense.
Is it worth to take a loan for your studies?
I would say yes.
You should know how much.
Yes, absolutely. You should know how much, and you should know how much will your brain would actually take as a pressure. I know people who have taken loans of 50,000 euros.
Oh, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And people have been paying it, like even if they've been into the job for 5 years or something, but they're happy about it. So some people take that pressure, some people do not. But I was someone who wanted to apply for the scholarship as well. So because of the scholarship, 50% of my tuition fee was waived off, and it worked well for me. Yeah.
Also, one thing I like to mention about the SOP, I just remembered, is that when you're trying to write the SOP, always mention why do you want to go to that particular school.
Yeah.
Because when the admission
Very
committee
important.
sees it, yeah, when they see it, it makes them think that this person has invested his time, he really wants to come here, and they may give you a little more scholarship.
And it has to be different.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't
different
have
for
to be
different. Yeah,
something
yeah,
we have copy
yeah,
pasted from
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
website.
Because these committee people, they have been looking at these applications for years, so they can always tell
Yeah,
if this is just another application, run of the mill application, or this person has really invested his time and effort to make his
totally.
application. Okay,
Yeah.
tell me one very important thing. I mean, you're a girl from Kashmir. We all know how hard it is. How did you manage to convince your parents? Was it hard, or were they understandable? They're like, she has got an admission from a world-class university. We should help her.
So my struggle didn't start when I was applying for the MBA.
Mhm.
Obviously, I coming from Kashmir is a struggle in itself. We all know about it. But coming from that particular society wherein there is a specific set of norms that, okay, a girl is supposed to behave like this, eat like this, do like this, study like this, get married like this, and have kids like this. So
Yeah,
there is a
there's a
pattern
pattern.
for
Yeah, that you
everybody,
have to
right?
follow.
So
Yeah,
anybody who is
a little different.
taking a different track is obviously, I mean, there are a lot of different labels to it.
Yeah.
So we all, I'm sure every girl can relate to it. But I think the struggle started when I finished my engineering and I was moving into the corporate sector. Um, I, I mean, back in 2011, it wasn't really that common for girls to move for the corporate sector. I would say there were many, definitely. There have been wonderful ladies from our community who have done really wonders in their lives. But it wasn't that easy because of the society. My family comes into pressure, and then they have to,
Yeah.
ask their children to act a certain way. So it was definitely there. But I took few months to convince my parents that, okay, this is my plan. This is the reason why I want to work, and this is how I want to go for an MBA. And my father wasn't really agreeing in the beginning, but it just took him a few months to actually understand my caliber and understand that why do I want to work. Basically, I remember my mama asking me that, why exactly do you want to work before studies? Why aren't you going for masters? And I explained it to her, and I've been blessed with a wonderful mother wherein she understands my opinion, and she says, you come from a different world, I come from a different world, so we respect each other's worlds and the way we live. So that's how they started supporting me for my GMAT and my MBA preparations, and they knew it that I want to spend 3 to 4 years into it. um, for me, that was it. This is what I wanted to be accountable to.
Yeah.
For me, nothing else happened. Nothing else mattered for me. Always tagged as a rebel because of all these things
Ideas.
in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, she's just not fit. She's not going to settle. For them, settlement was just getting married.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are such struggles are in every girl's life, wherein
So
society has.
how should a girl handle these things? Like, do you have any advice for all the girls that are
That's a
watching
very
it?
tricky question because, see, for a woman, it is up to a woman who she lets control her life. It's very important. It's I mean, for that matter, it's for every human being, I would say. But now that we are talking about just women from our society, it's very important for us to define our priorities beforehand. This is where I don't want to compromise, and this is where I might adjust. So we need to set our priorities really right in the beginning. Um, we cannot expect people to respect us, uh, you know, just without any reason. Um, One of my mentors back in my engineering actually told me, it's a very harsh way to actually put it, but I once asked him, what do you think would be the ideal situation when the society stops talking about them? He said, either you make it big or you die.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So I chose the first one for the time being.
yeah,
The death is not here yet. That's all up to Allah. But this was something which hit me really hard in my teenage, wherein I could see people judging without any background. There is a lack of empathy in our community, unfortunately, especially for people who come from a minority or maybe women section. There is this lack of empathy wherein people are just not ready to respect an individual based on her own ideas, her own way of living. It is a harsh reality. So I'm sure every girl deals with it, has to face it. But it is up to a woman whether she wants to succumb to it or she wants to fight it back. So
Always pushed
it's
through.
pretty simple. Yeah, I mean it's pretty simple. There are women who decide to adjust and call it who compromise and call it an adjustment, and then they start thinking that this is how life works. There are women who do not believe in it. I don't say that the one part of this community is wrong and the other is right, but we have our own ways of fighting our battles. um, we have our own potential and our own caliber to actually go through it and still stand straight. So it's all up to a woman whether she is ready to risk certain moments or not. I remember when I had to convince my family, I knew it that there might be a rough patch, but I will have to convince. I mean, they were absolutely new to this. They didn't know anything of that sort. They knew that this is how life works. But I was blessed because my family understood what I wanted to say. And when they saw the potential, they saw me getting promoted in my work, and my father was so proud of it. My mother was so proud of it. And they said that I mean, when they said that we feel proud that we are your parents, that was enough for me. That's it. Nothing more than that. But yeah, it's a wonderful topic actually to talk about our
Some
community
other
and
day, I
what
can see
sort of
how we could
struggle.
do it properly. Yeah. So
Yeah,
a lot of Kashmiri girls or girls from India may think that they may not be able to adjust in Europe or US. How hard is it for a girl to adjust in these places? Does it take time? Do you have to take any? Do you have to be proactive about it? What would you suggest?
I think it's all in your personality. If you're an outgoing person, if you like interacting with new people, you're definitely going to love it. People do not pressurize you for things. People welcome you with all their heart. They are much more humane than what we have seen in our lives. And I think, for me, there was a stage when, as a woman, I used to think about everything as a woman. But eventually, there came a point in my life wherein I stopped thinking as a woman and just a human being. And I feel that's an achievement for me because um, thinking just as a human was very difficult for me as a person coming from a community where we belong to. Because we are always, subjected to things and always made conscious of our existence, I would say. But when I came to this place, I realized that this is how people live. This is also another corner of the world wherein I can see a woman delivering food to my doorstep and she's absolutely fine about it. And I can see women. I board the trains where women run. I board the buses where women are driving. And it's incredible. It's incredible to see them. At least I got the affirmation that I am not an alien, basically. I was just an alien back there. But this is normal. This is
Yeah.
absolute normal.
Yeah. So, do you have any message for the parents that are probably watching this? Would you like to tell them something, especially a girl child?
Yes,
Someone has a girl
for
child.
the
Yeah.
parents, I would definitely say that if they've given birth to their daughter, um, they were chosen by Allah to do so, and they should be proud of it. I think people who call their daughters a liability, um, I pity such thought basically. So I would definitely respect and I would request the parents uh, to just value a child. Let's not check about what the gender is. Everyone has got a potential. Everyone has got a caliber. We just need to let them be themselves and not pressurize them for a specific demands or any asks. I am absolutely sure about it, and I've seen so many examples from Kashmir where women are so intelligent, so polished, but they do not have the right platform. And I think um, these women need that platform wherein they make their own parents proud. So I would definitely request the parents to give it a chance, just stop listening to the society कि लोग क्या कहेंगे.
That's a
That's
big
very
problem we
old.
have. Yeah.
Bus ho gayi hai. That's done. Done and dusted.
Yeah, let them
And I
say.
think women, yeah, I mean women really need that platform, and the society is not doing any favor to them. It's a basic right of any human being on this planet to have the platform to pursue their dreams. It's as common as breathing air. It's surprising for me when people say, "Are you working?" I said, "What does that mean? I have to pay my bills." So it's weird, right?
Yeah.
It's not optional for women. It doesn't have to be optional for women. It has to be there, like oxygen for us.
Okay. We all learn from our failures. Tell me about a recent failure that you had, and what did you learn from that?
Oh,
Anything
I had a lot
academic?
of failures.
Yeah.
Javed, you know it.
Yeah, welcome.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the failures was basically regarding my job, wherein I couldn't get the job at the right time, a permanent job, basically. France is very tough when it comes to the international expatriates, especially from South Asia, and I had to make sure that I learn French. I'm proving it to them, because when they hire an international expatriate, they have to justify to the government why are they picking this person, and to do that, they have to create a file for the person. So that was something wherein I definitely had a tough time. Um,
How did you
I
manage
mean,
it? You what did you learn from
I
it?
don't
Learn
know.
anything, or just like meri tarah kuch sikha hi nahi, failure to failure?
I learned hell lot. I remember people giving me adjectives like "you're very resilient." I said, yes, if I pick something, I have to bring it to an end. So I didn't give up. A lot of my friends and a lot of my batchmates basically left France and went to their respective countries because they couldn't get a job in like 6-7 months. But I was pretty, मैं बहुत deep थी.
Which is
मुझे
very good.
करना है, मतलब
Yeah.
करना है.
Yeah.
So if I have taken a decision in my life, I would stand by it. My mother always tells me when I'm a little weak and I say, "Mama, this is happening." She always tells me, "You decided it for yourself,
Yeah.
so deal with it." And that keeps me going. That I have chosen this. I've chosen this hard life, and I cannot just back off, like
At
that.
this point
And
of
I
time in
think
life,
that,
yeah.
yeah, and I have been so, I mean, consistent about applying and talking to people and
And
networking so
persistence is
much.
very
But I think
important. Yeah. Persistence
very,
is what will
very
differs you from
important,
someone else. Yeah. Because you will face failures eventually.
because, yeah, and failures are going to be, I think, more than success. Failures are somewhere we actually get a blessing. It's a blessing in disguise somewhere, that we fall, we get up, and then we go again. And in last few months, due to COVID, permanent jobs were literally out of question for so many companies. I had job interviews with big brands, reached the final stage, didn't happen, got dropped. I had interviews with startups. Eventually, startups called me up and said, "We are closing because it's not possible." So there have been so many, I would say, failures. Just that someone living in Europe doesn't mean that we are just enjoying in the fields and
Yeah.
singing songs like DDLG actors. It's not at all like that. It's a
Hard
different
work.
struggle altogether.
Yeah.
Definitely with you as well.
Yeah. It's the
International
same.
expat has,
It has
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
there is
And
work.
it's fun, I think.
I think yeah, after a certain point of time you enjoy doing it. So yeah, so
Absolutely.
that's part
Because
of
you
the
feel
game.
proud about it,
Yeah.
that this is something you've built from the scratch in your life, and you have struggled for it. You have, carved your way out through so many hurdles, and it's definitely a great learning. And I think that failure definitely helped me to be very patient, to learn how to be patient, and to be resilient. And perseverance is literally the key. Now I understand what I learned at the age of 10, that perseverance is the key, basically.
Yeah.
So needed, so needed for environments, for the worlds wherein we're absolutely new to. We come from a different continent, a different place
Different part of the
altogether.
world.
And yeah, absolutely. And I once saw a lady at the tram station cleaning the dustbin with her sweater sleeve. I was taken aback. I said, "How is it possible?" how is it possible? So we get a lot of shocks, but we learn out of them, definitely.
Learning is very important. So, do you have any parting advice for all the people that are watching? You want to tell them something at the end, something important, or something that life lesson,
Yeah,
something that they should take from
life.
this
No, I
session?
won't give much gyan, but I think like people like you and me, we are trying our level best to actually empower people from our community, and that's the only objective which we have. We want people to literally, not just girls but guys as well, to actually open up their wings, look into the right direction, and invest their energy, their time, into something really good, and not something, wherein they are not getting the results out of it. And I would, my advice would be, just set your priorities right. That's one. The second, which is my favorite, remember your worth. Just don't listen to people around you. Just decide
That
on
is
your
the
own.
hardest thing to do in life, not to listen to other people.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, we will get so many suggestions around us, but it's us who has to decide what is right and what is wrong. There might be a case that all the suggestions are right, but we got to pick the right stuff for ourselves, because we cannot follow anyone else's path. It's not possible.
You have to be responsible for your own decisions. If you fail, you
Absolutely.
fail. If you succeed, it's all on you. So.
Yes, absolutely. It's who you decided.
Yeah.
So it's the same.
Well, thank you so much, Samar. You woke up
Thank you, Javed.
so early for us today. Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure people will learn a lot from you. Thank you so much again.
Yes, thank you so much.